Welcome to the January 14th, 2025 meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. Mayor Mugerauer is excused tonight, so I'll be taking over for the evening. If City Clerk could please call the roll.
Sure. Esslinger?
Here.
Flum?
Here.
Stevenson?
Here.
Nichols?
Here.
Larson?
Here.
Mugerbauer is excused absent. Bulow?
Here.
Thank you. We have 6 present.
Thank you. And leading us in the invocation tonight is Councilmember Esslinger.
We come together this evening to discuss the issues that confront our city. May we always seek the wisdom to do things that reflect our concern for the people whom we represent.
Thank you. And we have a couple guests here from Grace Lutheran Church tonight. I'm going to invite them up so they can lead us in the pledge. Excellent job. Thank you, guys.
Got a commanding voice.
All right. Turn around here, and I have Jackson, Oliver, and Haley from Grace Lutheran. And I'm going to hand this over so they can give a shout out. They can say maybe their favorite teacher and their favorite class at school.
My favorite teacher is Mrs. Lalonde. And my favorite subject is math.
Awesome. Thank you, Jackson.
My favorite teacher is Mrs. Lalonde, and my favorite subject is probably science. My favorite teacher is Mrs. Lalonde, and my favorite subject is gym.
All right, Jackson. And Oliver, if you want to hold them up so your parents can get some good pictures. Awesome. Thank you guys for coming tonight.
Wow, quite the entourage.
Wait a minute for them to clear out. Our next item on the agenda will be the presentation from the Oshkosh Area Humane Society. So you can come on up, please.
Just making sure this is on. Everybody
Yep.
can hear me? Wonderful. Good evening. Thank you so much for having us over here tonight. This will be a very hard act to follow. Definitely not as, it's not going to be as cute as the kiddos, but we'll give it a whirl. I'm Eva Engel. I'm the executive director at the Oshkosh Area Humane Society. I've been with the Humane Society since summer of 2023 at this point. Like I said, thank you very much for having us. I'll share some of the services and some of the statistics about the shelter and hopefully provide some information that will be interesting to all of you. We will open up with our mission, which is to provide compassionate care and comfort to animals in need, and to build a community that promotes humane treatment of all animals. Those of you who follow us, you may have noticed that our logo and our brand colors have changed at the shelter, and we've done a little bit of renovation as well. But what has not changed is our mission. That has been around for a long time, and we're all very dedicated to it. I will start us off with a little bit of history. I know that several of you are supporters of our Humane Society, and you probably know this as well already. We were founded in 1991 under a name of Friends of the Shelter. And the mission at that point was focusing on assisting the government-run City of Oshkosh Animal Shelter. In 1998, the name of the organization changed to what it is today, of the Oshkosh Area Humane Society. In 2005 was a big year for us, so we moved to our current location at 1925 Shelter Court. It's a large facility that used to be an ambulatory surgery center that then was renovated and rebuilt to the standards of a shelter. We're currently in that building as well, so we're celebrating 20 years in our building this year. In 2009, the Humane Society made a pledge to become a life-saving shelter. So what does that mean? Many of you may have heard the term no-kill shelter. We prefer calling it a life-saving shelter. Technically, in our industry, no-kill shelter means that at least 90% of animals that are taken in have a live outcome. So they are adopted out, they are reunited with their former owners, and so on. Our shelter historically has been around 96% for a life-saving rate. This past year, we were at 96.6%. So when we talk about life-saving, of course, there are always cases when animals are very sick, terminally ill, maybe suffering, and in those cases, we may need to euthanize an animal. That's why we choose to call ourselves a life-saving animal shelter. So from statistics standpoint, I know these were shared with you ahead of time as well, but I'll walk through them. We currently have 47 full-time and part-time employees. Majority of those are part-time employees. This includes our staff veterinarian, which is huge for any animal shelter during this time of veterinarian shortage. Our operating budget is just around $2 million. This past year, we served 3,009 animals. And that means clinic appointments, assisting with spay-neuters, dentals, strays, owner surrenders, and so on. This past year, we took in 918 stray animals, and we do have a contract with City of Oshkosh for the stray animal intake. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment here. Majority of those were cats, 256 dogs, and 20 small mammals. When I say small mammals, I'm talking about rabbits, guinea pigs, rats, mice, occasionally birds as well, although they are not really mammals. We also took in 683 owner-surrendered animals. Again, a majority cats, 69 dogs, and 108 small mammals. For the owner surrenders, obviously, we primarily try to help the communities with which we have contracted services for, but we do have a fair amount of owners who specifically wish to surrender to our shelter because of how different we are and how we treat each and every one of our animals. So we do work with those owners as well. We do have to put, at times, owners on a wait list, just making sure that we're managing the population at the shelter and that we have adequate staffing and services available for those who already are there. We placed 1,362 animals into homes, so those were our adoptions. And then we reunited 276 stray animals with their owners. The redemption rates are significantly higher for dogs and hover around 60-70%. That's a statistic that's pretty much the same nationwide. Unfortunately, for cats, that number hovers around 14 to 15%. Again, not unusual in our industry at all, and Oshkosh is by no means an outlier. So now let's talk about services and programs. I'll start out with some of those that we're contracted for, and then I'll continue with those that we're offering our community as an assistance. For City of Oshkosh and some of the other municipalities, we are contracted to take in and care for strays, reuniting lost animals with their owners, giving animals that have not been redeemed, and again, like I said, much higher rate of redemption among dogs, giving them a chance to be adopted with a new family. We're also providing on-call services for the City of Oshkosh. So what does that mean? During daytime, as we have staff in the building till 6 o'clock, if there's a stray animal, the call gets placed to our caregiving staff. If it's outside of business hours for us, we have an on-call person dedicated to a phone where the Oshkosh Police Department can call us and we can work on picking up the animal. And I have to give kudos to the Oshkosh Police Department. They've been great partners to us in this effort. Matchmaking and adoptions. So I'll talk about this a little bit more in depth here, because what does that mean, matchmaking as part of our adoption pledge? So we are not first come, first serve shelter when it comes to people picking out animals. From the moment an animal arrives at our shelter, if it's a surrendered animal, we do obtain as much information as possible about previous life, exposure to children, other animals, and so on, and temperament as well, of course. If it's a stray animal, obviously, it's a bit of a guessing game, but we do observe these animals, and we have running behavioral notes from the moment these animals arrive. So when we matchmake, we try to find the perfect fit for that particular animal and that particular adopter as well. If we know we have a large dog that is rambunctious, with poor manners, that likes to jump, we would not advise that dog to be placed in a household with very small and young children, because that could really result in an injury. So we always make sure that we're looking at what's best for the animal, but then also what's best for our community in terms of placing these animals safely in homes. At times that can upset people if people have picked out an animal that visually meets their needs, but our cat and dog adoption counselors are always available to discuss with folks and trying to find that best fit for a lifestyle. When we are working with our adopters, we do not inquire about income. However, we do ask about lifestyle. If we have a dog that has severe separation anxiety and the potential adopter works 10, 12 hours a day, that may not be the best fit either. So another thing that we do check as we're moving through the adoption process, we do a very rudimentary background check, again, just looking for violent crime. We don't really care how many speeding tickets anybody has. We do verify whether if it's an owner of a house or property, we verify that through records. If it's a rental and we know for a fact that the landlord allows for animals, we do not verify it in those cases. There are some that require every single time for us to verify. And again, it's just done to ensure that this is the best fit and a long-term solution for both the adopter and the animal. We also check for dogs, whether the animal, if they have a dog in the house, whether the dog has been receiving rabies shots. So that's something that we do verify, again, for safety. And if it's a kitty, we make sure that the cat is spayed or neutered in the home. So that's really the extent of the background checking that we do at the shelter. Again, it's all about the matchmaking, making sure it's the right fit. We also offer post-adoption support. We just recently launched an application that will help new adopters go through those initial weeks of bringing home a new pet. There's content that speaks to them specifically with that timeline in mind. It has resources for area veterinarians, also for pet stores, and so on and so on. And it also includes medical records such as shots and any kind of treatment that was received. So that has been very well received as well. Looking at services and programs that we offer to our animals that come through, like I said, every animal gets a medical exam upon arrival. Vaccinations are administered, spay neuter if needed, if the animal hasn't been altered, and treating the animal for any existing conditions. We do not shy away from animals that have chronic conditions. At times they require quite expensive prescription diet. They require additional services, specialty veterinarian care that we cannot deliver currently at the shelter. We take care of all animals, and like I said, we treat them each as an individual. We also offer specialty senior care to our own animals and through grants to the community. We have several grants that specifically address the need for senior animals, such as dentals, such as specific chronic condition management. So we've been working with animal owners in the community with that as well. The Humane Society in Oshkosh is unique in that we also have a Shy Cat program. The animals that we are seeing more and more coming through are either animals that were under-socialized during the COVID time, and also animals that may have spent their whole life with one or two people. And for various reasons, they have to be surrendered. And now they find themselves in this very stressful environment. It's very stressful at the shelter for all animals, even if they don't readily display it. And many cats hide, and they aren't really understanding how a different human could be a great companion to them. So we have our Shy Cat coordinator, Nicole, that works with these kitties. She works with a few specialized volunteers that are also helping with that process. And we've been really, really successful in kind of helping these shy kitties uncover their best kitty self. We also have a Canine Crusader program, which works with dogs that have specific behavioral needs that require that extra attention, extra dedicated training program specific to their issues, not just the general walking or general manners. And that has been very successful as well. In terms of service to the community, we offer low-cost vaccine and microchip clinics. This year we held, I believe it's a record number of these clinics, which was 12, and we served 745 animals. Majority of the folks who come to these clinics are from the local Oshkosh, Fox Valley area, but we do have some that travel from further away just because these services are so needed and access to veterinarians is not very good right now just due to the shortage. Again, nothing unique to Oshkosh or Wisconsin. We also offer cat nail trims. So this is a drive-up service where a cat owner can bring either animal that was adopted from us or just a kitty in the community. It's part of our surrender prevention program, because we figured if we can help with clipping these nails, kitties may not exhibit these destructive behaviors in the home, which at times can be very frustrating for owners. This past year, we provided this service to around 3,600 cats, which is a lot of paws. And these are actually very handy, very well received. It's kind of like a drive-through service where we take the animal in the carrier, clip the nails, and bring the animal right back out. We also offer rabbit and guinea pig nail trims, which is also kind of an unusual service and much needed. We offer food pantry. When I say food pantry, I'm talking about pet food pantry. Very conservatively, we served 1,000 animals this year. We have not been tracking, which we will be doing from now on, how many animals do we actually serve. There are no limits on how many times folks can come to our food pantry to get some food for their animals. There's also cat litter and also animal treats as well. But like I said, we don't track how many we've handed out because anybody who experiences this need is welcome to come and we'll help them out. Surrender prevention program. This probably is one of our least known programs, at least kind of to the broader community. And this was established with the help of grants specifically for this purpose. As I mentioned, shortage of veterinarians and the costs of veterinary services have been very high. Very few people have money set aside that can pay for a $2,000 emergency procedure at a vet. So our medical coordinator works with the veterinary clinics when they have a patient that cannot afford the care but really need to, that we can work with them and help cover some of the cost. Now, in the past, how we addressed these was that if an owner could not afford medical care, we would take the animal as a surrender, we would still pay for the medical care, and then have this animal adopted out to a new family. Well, looking at it, taking a step back, the newer trends in sheltering is that, like I said, few people can really afford this unexpected expense. These animals have a loving home, so to pull them out of a loving home and put in another home may add to additional stress. So we focus instead of keeping these animals with the folks that they're currently with. This year we helped 38 animals stay in their homes. And oftentimes the animals that get helped are such that maybe have a harder time being adopted, certain breeds or certain mixed breeds. So we always are very cognizant of actually keeping the animals with the people who love them. We also have a trap, neuter, return program where we assist mostly folks who live more in rural areas who have cat colonies. We work with them in humanely trapping these cats, spaying, neutering so they don't multiply, and then returning them to field. We also have a barn cat program. There are some kitties who, despite graduating or semi-graduating from our Shy Kitty program, are still not suitable cats to be placed in a home. Those cats do, however, make very nice working cats. And so we do provide this service. We work with various folks in our community who are looking for barn cats specifically, so we have those on a list as well. Now, how do we share all this with the community, right? We're only as good as the services that folks know about. So we engage through community events. Maybe a few of you have heard of the Walk for the Animals. That is our biggest fundraiser of the year. We also host events that are not necessarily fundraising events. They are just feel-good events where we feel like we can give back to our community. Those are our Halloween events, our Easter events, where we invite everybody in the community to come for a free fun. We have various activities, and kids just typically love these. We also have adopter appreciation events at the shelter and so on. Our social media engagement has really been elevated this past year with the arrival of a new marketing and PR manager. We're doing our Wednesday walkthroughs. If you don't follow our Facebook page, please do. They are a lot of fun. These are live walkthroughs where we feature our animals. We also have our mail campaigns and, of course, e-newsletters as well. In addition, we collaborate with Planet Perk Cat Cafe. Ken has been a wonderful partner for us, and just this past year, we adopted out 108 kitties from the Planet Perk Cat Cafe. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our volunteers and our fosters. We currently have about 200 active volunteers, and these include dog walkers, it includes cat socialization, so there are more areas where you can truly hands-on engage with the animals. But we also have volunteers that are more interested in the maybe less glamorous tasks, like doing laundry, doing garden projects, maintenance projects, and so on. We have volunteers that man our 31 donation jars out in the community. And so there's a lot for everybody. So if anybody's interested, please make sure you go to our website and fill out a form online. Before I move on, I also did want to mention a successful program that currently is in place at the shelter, and that is partnering with the Department of Corrections and using the camp guys to do some of these chores at the shelter. This has been going on for many, many years. I view it as a very successful program. It gives our camp guys an opportunity to participate in these activities, to really give themselves to the community and these animals, and that has been very well received by them as well. So let me talk about the impact of our mission, right? I was bound to bring out some of the animal pictures. This is Hershey. So when I say we take every animal as an individual and we fight for every animal. Hershey came to us as a puppy, and in very quick sequence developed distemper. If you know anything about dog illnesses, distemper is a very serious illness. For puppies, almost always lethal. Even adult dogs that have not been vaccinated do not fare well with it. And if they do survive, there's typically significant neurological damage that follows. Well, Hershey were able to start treatment right away. We got Hershey out of the shelter with one of our fosters who took very good care of Hershey. And I'm happy to tell you that she recovered. She has no neurological damage, and she's been placed into her new home. Let's talk about Marion a little bit. Marion was a senior diabetic, blind and deaf kitty who came to us. She was extremely sweet, and just because she had all these challenges, it really didn't come in a way of being a very loving kitty. So we got her chronic conditions under control. Obviously, she was still blind and deaf, but she had a lot of attention at the shelter. We treat every animal as our own animal. And we were able to adopt Marion out, and now she's enjoying her senior days in her best home. Floyd was a bunny that came to us, and I don't know if you can see on the left side, Floyd was covered in very large mats. So on the right side, even though he still looks a little scruffy, we were able to get all these mats off of Floyd, and again, took care of Floyd, managed his conditions, and found Floyd a home. That's the work that we do at the shelter. And finally, I wanted to bring up some of the sheltering trends in general and what are the future challenges ahead of us. As I mentioned, nationwide veterinarian shortage, increased costs of pet care and inflation. I think anybody who is owning a pet can feel that. Increase in number of dogs and cats with behavioral issues. Again, I mentioned the under-socializing during COVID time. We're seeing more and more animals that require this specific behavioral health type of help than we have before. Lack of affordable pet-friendly housing is also an issue, again, not unique to Oshkosh. And we're seeing an increase in animal abandonment. We're seeing increase in impounds, unclaimed stray animals as well. And finally, all of these are really hard on the staff as well. We've been actually quite stable now in our turnover rate at the shelter, but the staff are burning out because we so often see the best of humanity at the shelter, but we also see the worst of humanity as well. And everybody is so dedicated to the welfare of these animals that a lot of times the staff are giving so much of themselves, and that includes volunteers and our fosters as well. So that is something we're working on. We're putting programs in place just to work with our staff and keep them in a good mental shape as well. And with that, are there any questions?
Paul?
Thank you. Just a couple quick questions. If someone were to witness, or someone were to see a dog or a cat in the road that was hit by a vehicle or in distress, who do you call? I mean, depending on what time of the day it is, what day it is, and holidays or whatever, what's the best recourse to get that animal attention?
You can call our shelter number and select caregiving as an option. Again, it probably depends on whether the animal is already deceased or if animal is in active distress. We have had our police officers partnering with us and helping bring some of these animals over as well. If an animal is already deceased, then if we at all can send somebody out, we'll go and pick up the animal. Again, probably more so in the areas where we have a contract with the city and the municipalities. At times we're very short-staffed, and that is not an option that we can immediately do. If an animal is injured, please do reach out to us at the shelter.
Okay. If someone's cat or dog were to get out of the house for whatever reason, do you suggest calling the Humane Society right away, or giving it a day before, if it comes back, it may come back? What are your suggestions on that?
My suggestion would be to contact us as quickly as possible. My suggestion would also be to use any and all social media to get this information out. As a matter of fact, my own kitty went missing for 2 weeks, and the only reason I got him back this past spring during when we had this really super cold spell was because I was able to get the live traps from the shelter, and I was able to trap him. It was a very cold spring, and those particular 2 weeks were really, really rough. So I would recommend reach out to us. We are a resource. We have a whole list of things we can advise what to do, and we also rent out these live traps to our community. We don't actually rent them out, we take a deposit, so when somebody brings them back, we just refund the deposit. But those work really, really well for kitties.
Okay. My last question is in regards to donations. Obviously, you take donations. If someone wanted to give a set amount of money, but they only wanted the money to go to cats or dogs or female cats or whatever, do you take that money and assure them that that money will be spent in their regards to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have quite a few donors that are kind of restricted in what they want the money to be spent on. Sometimes it can be as specific as senior kitties only for these types of things. So absolutely, we honor the wishes of our donors. And if you could tell from our operational budget, currently with the city of Oshkosh, our contract is around $105,000 a year. So the rest is made up purely by donations, our various fundraising campaigns, legacy giving as well. We're always open to those. And it's really our community that is supporting us. That's the reason we can do what we do. We are not affiliated with Wisconsin Humane Society. We're not affiliated with the National Humane Society, so we do not receive any monies from the government or from any of these organizations. It's grants, donations, fundraising, legacy giving.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Councilmember Flom.
Just one quick question. First of all, thank you very much for being here today. In terms of service area, how far out into the county do you go beyond the city?
So we have various municipal contacts. For the city of Oshkosh, we don't have really we have town of Neenah, for instance, but not City of Neenah, right? So we have City of Oshkosh, but I'd have to look at the precise borders so I can share that information.
Sure. Thank you very much.
I'll go next. A couple of my children have volunteered at the Humane Society, dog walking and playing with the cats. So I know you covered it briefly, but if you want to give a little bit more on how, especially kids and teenagers can earn some volunteer hours and how they get a hold of you for that.
Absolutely. Please visit our website. All our volunteer and family forms are available. If kids want to volunteer independently, they would have to be 16 years of age. But for families, if kids are 12 years of age and above, we of course welcome a parent with the kids. We find this is a very useful way to get the kids involved in this type of work, and I think it's very beneficial both for us, for our animals, and of course also for the families. So visit our website. All our forms are electronic. Our volunteer coordinator, Joe, will reach out to you right away as soon as you filled out your application.
Awesome.
And thank you to them for volunteering.
Oh, of course. Anybody else? All right, thank you so much for your presentation tonight.
If I can just add one more thing. If anybody would like to come and visit our shelter, I'd be happy to give you a tour individually or as a group so you can see how we're taking care of our animals in the community and kind of what the city has contracted us to do and how well we're executing on that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, up next, we'll have citizen statements to council. I have one registered, so TJ, would you please come up?
Hello. I don't know if this lifts up. All right, here we go. I'm not feeling the best. I apologize. I'm going to keep the mask on. Okay. So I was in between haircuts. It's been a couple months. But what I have to say is timely, and that's why I'm here tonight regardless. Our Oshkosh police officers may soon be facing pressure from the federal government to target marginalized members of our community, including children at our schools and workers at their jobs. This enforcement harms neighbors who are vital to our city's fabric. If ICE attempts to intervene in our schools, will our school resource officers provide names? I urge you to clearly direct our police department, including every officer in our schools, not to share information with ICE or with federal officers. It is your role as City Council to safeguard the safety, dignity, and privacy of all Oshkosh residents. Our officers, many of whom serve as mental health responders and community liaisons, have built trust and rapport. These relationships are essential to fostering a thriving, united community. Spending our resources targeting immigrants distracts from addressing Oshkosh's real challenges. It won't lower rents, reduce grocery prices, or improve access to health care. Immigrants, African, Latinx, Asian, and others, are integral members of our Oshkosh community. They are workers, caregivers, advocates, and builders whose contributions are visible in the homes we live in, the food that we share, and the progress that we all celebrate. Their voices have shaped Oshkosh's identity, and their labor, resilience, and advocacy are inseparable from our city's success. Our nation is built on immigration, and unless you are Indigenous, we are all descendants of immigrants. Harassment of our neighbors will not be tolerated in Oshkosh. As leaders, I ask you to shift focus back to real solutions, affordable housing, healthcare, and groceries, and ensure that our city police refrain from engaging with ICE. When Americans exercised their right to vote, they sent a clear signal about what matters most to them: affordable groceries, affordable healthcare, and affordable housing. These are the issues that voters named as their priorities, not divisive distractions or harmful politics that target our neighbors. It is crucial that we remain focused on addressing the real needs of our Oshkosh community rather than allowing the narrative to be twisted or distorted. Cities like Denver and Chicago have implemented clear policies protecting immigrant communities by limiting ICE involvement. These models prove that safety, inclusivity, and legal compliance can coexist successfully. Oshkosh can and must follow suit to protect our neighbors. As someone who understands the weight of erasure and targeting, I ask you tonight to act boldly to defend our community. Use your power as Oshkosh City Council members to direct our police to protect immigrants who are cherished and vital to Oshkosh's future. Thank you.
Thank you, TJ. I don't have anybody else registered to speak. Would anybody else like to now or is this about an item on the agenda? Okay, come on up, please. And would you please just say your name and address for the record?
Good evening. My name is Mary Callan. I live at 2524B Village Lane. I would like to speak tonight on the recent property tax increase and city budget for 2025. I am on the board of directors for the Village Lane Condo Association. We are a state of Wisconsin designated 55 and over community. 90% of our owners are over 55, with most owners in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm the treasurer on the board. We are much like the city in that we spend our owners' money to the best of our ability for needed projects. If we want more money, we have to justify it to the owners, and they have a say in the decision. The city just borrows more money or raises our taxes, and we have no say in it. My property taxes went up $542, which was a 19.6% increase in my city taxes. I'm semi-retired and on Social Security. I'm fortunate as I have investments that I can access, and I work part-time. Not all owners over 55 or even 65 and up are that fortunate. One of our owners had her total taxes go up over $1,000 this year. She called the assessor's office and asked if someone could come and look at her property and discuss the assessment. She was told that that was not an option as the assessments were done and there was nothing to discuss. That is not the services we should be receiving for our tax dollars. Yes, our properties have gone up in value over the years and can certainly be sold for more than we purchased them for. How does that help an owner in our association who is on a fixed income and now has to pay these taxes? You're pricing the senior community out of their homes. My daughter, in her mid-30s, has a young family. Her taxes went up over $1,000 per year. How are young people supposed to be able to afford a mortgage, insurance, and these outrageous taxes? My son-in-law works in a factory, and my daughter works in a daycare. These are taxpayers who can't afford these tax increases. The city is working on new developments at the end of Christian Drive with starter homes. The taxes on these starter homes, in addition to other costs, will price young families out of the market. Let's talk for a minute on how our tax dollars are being spent. When I looked at the insert which came with my tax bill, I was appalled at the 2025 city levy allocation pie chart. 29% of the budget is for debt service. If I have 29% debt, I pay that from my Social Security, investments, and my earnings. Where does the city's 29% come from? It comes from our pockets. I have a few examples. In the October 30th issue of the Herald, there was an article on City Hall with a price tag of $31 million to renovate, $38 million to build a new City Hall, with an additional $4 million to purchase land. Maybe we don't need to build or renovate City Hall. Maybe we need fewer employees at City Hall to spend our money irresponsibly. In the December 4th issue of the Herald, there was an article on housing projects to build more houses and apartments. Houses and apartments that taxpayers can't afford the cost. In the January 8th issue of the Herald, there was an article regarding the properties purchased for modification of the Oshkosh Ave Sawyer Street intersection. The total purchase of properties is $1.3 million of our tax money. Why is that needed? My point being that the city should not be purchasing property to sell to developers. If the developer wants to develop a parcel of land, they should purchase it themselves, and the city should not be involved, certainly with my tax dollars. On Facebook, there was an article last week that the city does not have $50,000 to fix the train at Menominee Park or have the aqua bikes. Where are the city's priorities? The city's primary functions should be police and fire safety, roads, which are a disaster in some areas, clean water, garbage collection, and stormwater removal so you don't flood the basements of the residents whose taxes you just raised. The city should take note of the national November 5th election and what the voters said they wanted on a national basis: safety and fiscal responsibility from their leaders. The city is spending our money like they have a money tree. Maybe you need to look for a different money tree because the property owners in the city of Oshkosh certainly can't afford your wish lists and priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody else? All right. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll take a motion and second for the consent.
Move it. Second.
All right, any debate? Seeing none, please take the roll on consent agenda.
Eslinger,
Aye.
Flum,
Aye.
Stevenson,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bulow,
Aye.
carried 6.
Thank you. Now on to pending ordinances. I want to make sure I'm not missing any asterisks tonight, so that we're voting on all of these. Ordinance 2517, approve zone change from institutional district to urban mixed-use district for part of 240 Algoma Boulevard. The Plan Commission recommends approval. Motion and second.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please take the roll.
Eslinger,
Aye.
Flum,
Aye.
Stevenson,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bulow,
Aye.
carried 6.
And moving right along to new resolutions. Resolution 25-18, amend the fee schedule for sanitary sewer use charges for hauled waste charges. Motion and second, please.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, please take the roll.
Eslinger,
Aye.
Flum,
Aye.
Stevenson,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bulow,
Aye.
carried 6.
Resolution 2519, approve amendment to agreement between City of Oshkosh/Go Transit and the Fox Valley Technical College extending term of agreement for student ridership through December 31st, 2025. Motion and second.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? Please take the roll.
Eslinger,
Aye.
Flum,
Aye.
Stevenson,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bulow,
Aye.
carried 6.
Resolution 2520, approve preliminary plat for the creation of an 18-lot, single-family residential subdivision at the former Washington School property, 929 Winnebago Avenue. Plan Commission recommends approval. Motion and second.
Move it.
Second.
All right. Councilmember Nichols, you got in first.
Thank you. I'm incredibly excited about this project. I see Kelly's walking up, and so she probably seems I'm going to ask her a question, and I am. But before I ask, at the Plan Commission meeting last week, there were many residents that came to ask some questions. One of the questions was about character of the neighborhood. And what we talked about at Plan Commission was that we have an architectural design book that is going to have so many variations of houses that there will not be a cookie cutter approach to this. Kelly, I think it was over 140
Yes.
different variations. So that's incredible, number one. Number two, half of these lots will go to Habitat for Humanity. The other half will be sold to developers to be developed in coordination with that book. Is that right?
Yes.
And it's for workforce housing, which is 80 to 120%
Correct.
of the median income. So that's teachers, firefighters, police officers, plumbers, electricians, people that are our community.
Right.
And so, anyway, I'm incredibly excited about this project. Kelly, I want to give you the opportunity to say anything else about it that you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great partnership. Looking at, an old school, and unfortunately, they did not receive any proposals to do anything different to reuse the building, but we're excited to bring some new, approximately 18 new single-family homes into a well-established neighborhood, Stevens Park Neighborhood Association, right in our central city. And I think it will be a great opportunity for folks to, live close to many amenities and have a wonderful neighborhood. So we're using a lot of different resources to move this project forward. But Oshkosh is really one of the leaders in the state. There's very few communities that kind of get involved with helping these types of projects move forward. And it will be for, workforce development, workforce income level, income. So that's folks that make 80 to 120% of the area median income, which is roughly 100,000. So people making about 80,000 to 120,000 in our area and families. So, we're very excited to see it move forward and hope it will be a great success that we can replicate in other areas of the city.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Flom.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate, the public-private partnership here. The fact that this is an example of thinking outside the box, creative redevelopment in terms of an infill. This is something that I'm very excited about. I don't think that the city of Oshkosh built enough single-family housing, partly because we have space constraints. But this is a excellent creative reuse, like I mentioned, and I'm very excited to see the project go forward. So thank you.
All right, Councilmember Stevenson.
Ditto to everything my fellow council members said and Director Nyford. I would like to also point out that while affordable housing is certainly needed, housing is needed in general, but these are not losing bets in the city, right? I mean, the way your tax bill works is that the more development we get, the more people we get here, the more houses we build, your taxes go down. I know there are plenty of communities out in the state that experience such rapid development that they don't move their budget at all, but the end effect is that the resident sees a reduction in their taxes. So when we talk about these developments, I think that's a point to bring up where we are doing this for altruistic means. I mean, we do want people to have affordable housing, but it also helps our bottom dollar. So I just wanted to illustrate that. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, please take the roll.
Esslinger,
Aye.
Flom,
Aye.
Stevenson,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bulow,
Aye.
carried 6.
Thank you. All right, Resolution 2521, approve installation of new sidewalk, Bay Shore Drive South Side from Broad Street to Mill Street, and Bay Street both sides from Bay Shore Drive to Lake Winnebago. Motion is second.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, take the roll, please.
Esslinger,
Aye.
Flom,
Aye.
Stevenson,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bulow,
Aye.
carried 6.
And Resolution 2522, determination of necessity to acquire and approve and execute relocation order of partial land acquisitions of 3277 and 3290 of Meadowbrook Drive. Motion is second.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none?
Esslinger,
Aye.
Flom,
Aye.
Stevenson,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Bulow,
Aye.
carried 6.
And moving on to the next items, the discussion and direction to city manager. First item on the list is the updates for the 7th Avenue flooding.
You want me to take that, John?
Go ahead, James.
Thank you. Council is, as you're well aware, we've had a lot of discussions about this, and we have been talking about getting a consultant on board to help us analyze this situation. Certainly with the holidays that did slow down getting some of that scope of work, but I know Mr. Gierock and his staff do have a scope of work from a consultant. We are working on finalizing that. We're hopeful that we would have it available for our next meeting for council approval, because it will be of a dollar amount that does require council approval. However, I am also, you've indicated in the past, but I also want to just reaffirm that, if we are able to get everything ironed out, you are okay with us getting started before that agreement comes before you for formal approval? I'm seeing several nodding heads, so thank you. As I said, Justin and his team are reviewing it. I think we are very close. We just have a few final points that we are trying to get ironed out with the consultant that we're looking at bringing on board to help us out.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions, comments? All right, moving on to the next item, sponsored by Mr. Esslinger, the special meeting with Oshkosh Taxpayers Council and city staff regarding the recent property tax bills. Paul, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Well, council, as we all know, the property tax bills did go out, and I kind of look at this as we all know, we've diligently worked with the staff, and we had just a multitude of things that happened this year. I kind of call it a perfect storm, bad storm. And so they went out, and as we saw one resident here tonight, angered a lot of people. But, there's reasons for what happened. Some things were in our grasp that we could handle, some things were not. And so on social media, many people were complaining, rightfully so. I mean, if you just want to complain about it, I'm on the same page with you. Mine went up about $450, so I'm at $6,500 a year now for property taxes. So if it's complaining, I'm on the same page with you. But again, there were so many things that went on, and so I think there was a lot of misinformation that's out there, half-truths, and so I think as council members, council, we owe it to the people that we generate these dollars from. We owe them an explanation of what goes on. So what I'm asking for is a special meeting here in these chambers to discuss what happened. So the structure would be, and I talked to Councilmember Larson a bit on this, I think we pretty much got all of the questions that, why did this happen? Why didn't you do this? And how much was levied? I mean, there's just so many questions. And so I think Councilmember Larson and I have kind of crunched the various questions. We can sit down with the Mr. Fitzpatrick, give those questions to him. So at this meeting would be set up where the acting city manager would go over these questions. And then the residents then could come forward, give their opinions and ask further follow-up questions. And then the council could, I guess, interject with wherever they are in the process. So, I've said this before, this generating tax revenue based on the value of the home is some, I'm trying to get a meeting with Representative Palmieri and Gustafson to talk about ways we can get away from this. It's just terrible. So let's see, what else have I got in here? Oh, so I went to Facebook and I just simply asked the question, would the residents like to have a meeting where they can come forward and ask questions that they have regarding their homes or the process, more of the process. And it was, everyone said, yes, that's a great idea. And I guess I want to caution the residents, if you have a question regarding your home specifically, at that meeting, that's probably, we're not going to be able to get an answer. Why did my home go up this much? Well, it takes a while for the staff to get an answer to that. So if you would have specific questions like that, the best thing to do is call the assessor's office, and I think you'd be better off getting an answer that way. So my point in this is to allow for residents to express their anger. That's part of what we do here. That's why we make the big bucks, and listen to them. And then, we have to educate them on why we did what we did. And so that's kind of my proposal. I did ask for dates and times. It seems that Wednesdays and Thursdays are good in the 6 o'clock hour or so, and the meeting I guess there's no time constraint. I know we allow 5 minutes for citizen statements. I guess we could have that type of rule with this. So, in the future, the explaining how this tax process works is, we're not going to put all the fires out. You just simply can't do that. And I will say, again, with the residents, if it's just a process of complaining that the taxes went up, this meeting probably isn't going to help you. I mean, and I'm not trying to be a bad guy here, but this is for people that have legitimate questions that need them answered. And again, like I said, we owe it to the citizens to answer those questions. So, council, that's my proposal to you, and I'm hoping that we can get that meeting put together.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Flom.
I agree. I think it's incumbent upon us to go over this one more time. I know that Community Development and the Assessors Department did a good job with putting together an FAQ or about the reval and what happened there, but I feel like it's important for us to go over this one more time after the property tax bills have been issued. For us, I know I personally spent a lot of time explaining both on social media and in emails and phone calls to residents about how we got to this point. What exactly happened? Did council actually raise taxes or not? How property taxes are calculated and stuff like that. So I think it's a good opportunity for residents to come and ask questions if they have them, or just to listen about how we got to where we are, and knowing the fact that council does have several options within its toolbox to address this in the future. I know that some of that's been discussed, discussion about a biennial budget, discussion about releasing tax bills earlier, discussion about being a little bit more open with the process. We are quite open as it is, but ways we could potentially improve, and so on and so forth. Working with our state legislators is going to be another key item here, because ultimately they write the laws that have us, they basically dictate the way that we have to assess value and how we tax in this state, in this community. So I'm all for it. I think anytime we have the opportunity to explain to residents that this is it's important, and I think we should take this opportunity to do so. So count me in. I think this is needed, particularly given the discourse that's happened. I think it's a good central spot for people to come and ask their questions in a constructive manner, for those who are still kind of confused and also upset. I understand nobody likes to see their taxes go up, especially after council itself didn't raise the levy in the previous year. So I'm all for it.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevenson.
I have no problem sitting up here and being a punching bag. But I do want to caution us to be very, very clear. We cannot, a person coming here, it's not going to reduce their taxes. A person coming in and talking to us, I mean, we really, at this point, we don't, the die's been cast. I think if we're going to move forward with this, we have to be very clear that this is like a knowledge session, more information. Yeah, it's, so, I don't know. I'm lukewarm on it. I have no problem, like I said, sitting up here and explaining why we do. I think we did a good job trying to make sure that taxes remained low. We did hit a perfect storm, Paul. I think you hit it on the head. That's exactly what happened. But I also don't want to dwell too much on this topic. If we are going to move forward with some sort of session, let's try to get it done now. Let's not, I guess, belabor the issue. Been in Oshkosh a while, and I think we're really good at belaboring the issue. So I'd encourage us to move as quickly and be as succinct with our messaging as possible, that showing up to this does not mean we can wave a magic wand and save you thousands of dollars. And my taxes went up by a lot too. Dang it, Joe Stevenson. But I think that's also a point I'd like to highlight, is that we all live here. We all get elected here. A lot of us own homes, and we deal with the situations that we vote on, right? So I mean, the taxes affect us as much as anybody else. Not that that's an out by any means, but I just like to throw it out there.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson.
Yeah, agreed. Also, Paul, thank you for bringing it up. Everybody sort of knows my MO. I'm engaged. I answer everybody's questions. I've replied to hundreds of emails about this, and I think that's good. But maybe it's too good sometimes. Maybe I shouldn't do that, Joe, to your point. But I think this is, I mean, Paul, you were also right. Perfect storm was a good way to explain this. it would have been great had we all been able to follow this with some kind of PR or market, some way to explain to folks what was happening right after those bills went out, because this is different than years past. The reval was different, the shift in value from residential to commercial was different. Whether we have all the answers or not, we don't know, but this is a different cycle than ever before, probably, and one we'll hopefully never see again. But I think that's a great opportunity to engage people further. And no one's going to tell people their taxes are going to go down, but it's really hard for me, and again, I've hundreds of times had the conversation. I can't say, Jacob, to your point, we lowered the levy to make sure this was as good as it could be, because it doesn't matter. We said something else previously, and then we didn't correct it after the fact. So getting the opportunity to hear people in real time and hopefully publicize that and get the answers out, because I can't do that from my social media. We all can't do that on our own, and the city can't really do it on their own either. So maybe this is the event to help explain it further, and maybe we should do it every year. So I think it's great, and I'll be here with bells on.
All right, Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you. I think I'm also lukewarm to having a special meeting where we all sit up here, and punching bag is a good word. My taxes went up $800, and I'm upset about it too, but I understand the process. And so to Councilmember Esslinger's point, it doesn't make me less upset about the extra $800, but I do understand why. And that's a big gap, I think, for a lot of our residents. So while a meeting, of course, would be recorded and people could watch it, I wonder if rather than a meeting, leveraging Oshkosh Media to create a video that perfectly spells out exactly what happened and why, and dispersing that to taxpayers as well. I think had we had this conversation before tax bills went out, we could have included a QR code that went to that YouTube link that showed people exactly this is what happened and what we think about it. So certainly if there's a meeting, I'll be sitting up here. And maybe I'll walk down there and complain too. But I think that's where I think there. The other thing is the new city manager, one of the things she talked about in her interview is having a proactive media strategy, press strategy, where in the town she's in now. I think that's something that she will bring to Oshkosh. That will be huge. It'll help us communicate these things in advance, but also have a structured campaign where we're not just communicating once in one means. We're actually going to communicate several different ways, and then we'll communicate over a period of time. So I imagine that she's watching this, so she can imagine that I'm going to ask her about it later. And then the last thing I'll mention, City Attorney's Office, right before the holidays, sent me a resolution that I asked for to actually address this with our 4 representatives in Madison and the governor. So we can send that resolution. I'll be bringing it before council so that we can vote on exactly what we would request from the state in terms of assessments and valuations. And when we do have this situation, how can we make sure that we're not screwing over the people of Oshkosh just because the math that we had done wasn't acceptable in Madison. So I think that there are other steps that we can take there. That's something I'd also like to include in a video to say, not only are we upset about it, and this is why it happens, but this is what we're doing about it too. So anyway, the questions about a meeting, I think I'm lukewarm to it. I think that creating an engaging video that explains it in layman's terms would be very valuable as we go forward. And also something that we can produce every year to explain to people why their tax bills look the way they do.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson.
It's mediumly, I don't mean to sound snarky, but the QR code in the video reminded me of the last time we put out a QR code in the video, and it was right before the revaluation, and it said the thing that that can't be forgiven at this point. I mean, I can't explain it to folks, and a video would be great.
Yeah.
But every time I explain what our process was, and I understand it as well as you do, which is great, people go, I saw that video, that it said just because our values go up, our taxes won't, so there's a video already that says the wrong thing. And people want to keep talking about this. So I'm with you. I mean,
I agree with you.
Can one video fix the next video? I don't know.
And I don't know. I think that video was one that we borrowed actually from a city in Canada, if I remember right. I suggest that we create our own video that's talks specifically about the Oshkosh tax.
That would be awesome.
And so maybe one video can correct another video, but I want to be specific to Oshkosh. I don't want to borrow.
It sounds like people watched that video regardless.
Exactly.
Like crazy, yes.
All right, back to
physically say.
Councilmember Stevenson.
I really like the video idea. Again, I'll be here if we have an in-person session. I'll be here with bells on my feet, whatever the lingo is. But I also am going to take the opportunity to address a few of the state things as well. I do think we have a huge over-reliance on property tax. That is completely a state mechanism. We are one of I think it's us in Minnesota, are the ones that have the biggest reliance on property tax for municipalities. Paul, if you're working with some of our legislators to to maybe get that a little bit corrected, I think that would be awesome. I think our state relies too much on property tax. And then also, DJ, to your point, I am very disappointed with the state and how we had that, the evaluation go down. I almost lob entire fault at their feet, maybe not all of it, but a good chunk of it.
Let's give it all of it.
Yeah,
that's
because
easy.
I really feel this way that they're setting up the double assessment type thing, right? We're coming up with a number, they're coming up with a number, and then they'll say, haha, I gotcha, your number doesn't match our number, I think is a little redundant and not efficient. If they want to do the evaluations themselves, then let them do them. I don't think we need to waste taxpayer dollars to do them, or vice versa. If they want us to do them, then we shouldn't be double checking with the state. So that's maybe a little bit of an aside, but a rant that I wanted to kind of get off my chest.
Councilmember Esslinger.
Thank you. Just a couple things. Councilmember Stevenson, thank you for mentioning this is, my intention is not to allow people to come up and say, my assessment was too high, I want you to lower it. That's not where I'm going with this. That's done, that's set, and that's for an argument for another day. And this is not, I want you to lower my taxes, that's done, okay? Until next, November or whatever, we start doing our budget again. But council members, DJ, I think you're right. I think it's a great idea to do that video. And would that work? Yes, I believe it would work. However, not only do we need to listen and do we need to explain to residents, but I really think they need to have an outlet. And so while you're watching a video and for whatever reason, you're not getting the answer from the video, now you're more upset. Like, they took all this time, I just wasted a half an hour watching this video, it doesn't answer my question. So then they're calling us or whatever, or the acting city manager, or the new city manager, and they're upset. I think sometimes you just have to sit and take it. You have to listen. And so that's why I'm saying you have to allow them to come here and say, what are you guys doing? This is crazy. And again, I want to explain, the residential and the commercial were messed up, and we actually leveled, as Jacob said, we levied less this year than the previous year. And I don't think people understand that, and once they get educated on that, they're still going to be upset that the taxes went up. I'm going to be, along with everyone else, but sometimes you just have to sit and you have to take it. So I'm still recommending a meeting.
Councilmember Flum.
Thanks. I'm not opposed to a video at all. I think it's a helpful supplement to either a special meeting or a workshop within a meeting. But I also think, two things can be true at the same time. I think the state and DOR with that double assessment, Joe, to your point, about 90% to 95% of the blame lays at their feet. However, there is stuff that we could be doing better ourselves. I think we should be reevaluating more frequently. I think we should be in clearer communication with the people who we represent, not us as a council, but just everybody here. And in terms of the way tax bills are issued, having some more clarity there, potentially looking at other budgeting options, like a biennial budget, which I mentioned earlier. I know Councilmember Larson's been talking about that quite frequently. There are things I think that we can offer up in our own backyard as things that we could do better as an institution to help alleviate at least a little bit of this. Is it going to fix everything? No, because most of that is going to have to be at the state level. However, I do think this would be a good outlet for us to say, hey, here's what we are committed to do as a council as well, in tying with our advocacy on the state level. So I would still be for something in person. I do think a video, though, would be an excellent idea, and I think we should do it every year, frankly, because when we have that, we can explain, okay, this is what happens here. This is a live update on how much of the splits are. I know it's like 40, 17, 3. That may change in the future, so I think we should be doing that frequently. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. All right, I think everybody's gone twice, so I'm going to go for my first time here. I would say I'm actually a little bit less than lukewarm on the idea. And I thank you for bringing it forward, but I don't see it solving anything. I think it's just another avenue to point at a problem. And I have shown that I'll take bullets. I don't care. You talk about going home and not liking your tax bill. I got it from my partner as well when she opened it. There are 2 days of published video budget sessions out there. There's a budget hearing that was had where this information was known. There was a public discussion, pretty robust discussion during the vote to adopt those taxes. And if you type in Oshkosh reassessment FAQs, it is the top hit in the city government thing. It's oshkoshwisconsin.gov/assessor/FAQ. That does have all of the information that came out here. So my concern is if a person wants the information is there. If they want to yell at us, they can come yell at us on any night. Mary did so tonight, and there's opportunity for that. I don't think having an entire meeting dedicated to just coming in and yelling about tax bills is going to be productive. I'm going to do it if we decide as a body that we're going to do it. I'll be here, just like everybody else will. I don't see it being a productive. I love the idea of a video, an FAQ video, because the information is there. The information on the websites is there. And for a unique question, we're not going to be able to answer those anyway, as you've already said. Those need to go to the assessors and city management so they can go through the one-off unique questions. I learned best by video. I made it through college, actually, from YouTube University. Got my diploma from the great University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, but I took most of the information that I needed off of video, so I love that avenue as having a way to help explain it. But the information is there. So for me, I would be less than lukewarm to have a special meeting for this. Because I think that if, like I said, the information is there, and if they want to yell, they can yell, and if they want answers, they need to reach out to the city assessors. But that's my opinion on it.
I'm counting 3 warm, 2 tepid, and 1 cold.
I guess, if you don't mind, I'd like to just chip in on this a little bit. I think, I appreciate the willingness for council members to be punching bags, first of all. And I think citizens don't have an opportunity to see how hard that they do work on these issues and how much they really do care. So I appreciate this discussion. I appreciate Paul bringing it up, Chris talking about all the emails. But for those people that don't know, to Deputy Mayor's point about what took place at the budget, not only, did they take the shots as punching bags and continue to, but I think they took extraordinary steps to try to address this issue in a way where it's going to be very difficult when we get to the budget cycle this next time. And they did that with their eyes wide open. They understood that it was going to make their life even more complicated. And I know that there are a lot of people that I've spoken to too that aren't happy about their taxes going up, including mine. But I share the concerns associated with what sort of expectations we're establishing for folks. I would hate to have them feel like we're just being disingenuous to them by, just placating them and not taking any additional actions. So I do have concerns about that. And I know staff has worked very hard to try to be as responsive as they could to the citizenry and to council. So I don't think it's an easy decision. It seems like it's a kind of a split group here tonight. We're more than happy to work on additional materials. Whatever you decide, we're happy to do that. I think that's whether we can augment what we've already, utilize what we've already developed, or what's already been discussed, and then add to that, I think it's a good idea. And I do agree with the idea that I think we can continue to communicate and educate the population better. That's the mission of Oshkosh Media. So I'm going to stop talking now, but thanks for allowing me to speak.
No, I think that's fair. I don't think there's enough to move forward with the meeting that we have right now. I don't know if this is something that, without Mayor Mugerauer here, I don't know if we want to get his input at a later date or how we want to handle that. But at least from what I'm seeing, it doesn't seem to be a consensus to at least move forward right now.
I'd personally like to hear from Matt.
Okay.
And I guess we all kind of agreed to some sort of video outreach thing right now. I mean, is that, maybe we start with that, then we get kind of Matt's feeling on, Mayor McGrower's feeling on the session, and then we maybe go from there?
Fine with me. I was just going to say, it's a great segue into the next topic as well, because we have absolutely no way to make this decision currently. None.
Correct. There's no.
And that's, Paul, to your next, I'm not going to get on your next agenda item, but your next agenda item is, how do we do this? And we're experiencing it real time right this second, because there's no path to Paul's probably good idea. And middle ground might be, let's just say we have a video and we have an informational session where people can come and Julie can come and whoever wants to be here can be here. That's good middle ground without talking to Matt or with talking to Matt, it doesn't matter. But how do we decide?
Well, I guess maybe I have a procedural question for the city attorney. If during this section of discussion and direction to city manager, one of us were to say, I move, and then make a motion, would we then vote on it?
That's my exact same question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's, and I don't want to step on the next agenda item either, but I think that's the answer. So I think if Councilmember Esclair, you moved to have that special meeting and we voted, I'm not suggesting you do that. I don't think you're going to win without Matt.
Well, I don't think you can because it's not noticed.
Right, that's the problem.
The meeting is noticed.
The meeting, it's noticed,
It's in our
on the
agenda.
agenda. Special meeting.
But we did not allow the citizens to come forward and speak to it.
You know, if I could offer a suggestion, because, Paul spoke to me about both these items prior to placing them on the agenda, and the fact that Matt is not here for the secondary item. And I think it was something that he felt that he could take responsibility for. He can't really speak to what has or hasn't been done. We could certainly discuss this when he is present at the next meeting and then make a decision kind of in the context of what Carl said.
That's fair.
And then that way he can speak to that other item as well about what sort of progress he may or may not have made.
Yeah, I don't know what he has made, but I know that, I remember, because obviously we were all here, but that he said he was going to reach out to other
Right.
councils
I think
and get some facts pointed.
I spoke to him earlier in the week, and he was planning on being here. I don't know exactly what came up, but I know he had a conflict and he wasn't able to be here. So I thought he was planning to, so I don't know the specifics of why he was unable to attend.
Well, I think that's fair. I mean, if you want to put it on the next, then can I segue into the next?
Yeah, I think we're all kind of chomping at the bit
Okay,
to get
all
to the
right.
next.
So go ahead, so right into the next one.
I really won't say much on the next one. It's just, council, if you remember several months back, it was brought up, how do council members get something on the agenda? And back when I was on the council the first time, it was very simple. It was you called the city attorney, you called the city manager, or you called the clerk and said, basically the language that you wanted, and it just got put on the agenda. And I guess that's not what we do now. And there's no rule on it, so I did call the city attorney, and she suggested the best way to ferret out what we need to do or what we should do is have this discussion here. So I guess just for the public's edification, I'm suggesting that a council member, because we do get elected, we represent people, and we get a lot of our ideas from people, that a council member be allowed to put something on the agenda. And I don't think a council member needs to have permission from any other council member or city staff to do that. That's just my personal opinion. So that's where I'm at with the second one, but I think it's more than fair to, the mayor's not here, and so in fairness to him, these are not real timely issues here, and I think we can wait another couple weeks to get an answer.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson.
I will second that for sure, not second formally, of course, because we can't do that, but I will second the sentiment here. I have lots to say about this, but I can't do better than what we just exhibited here, because we don't have a policy. I mean, you all got emailed a forwarded thread of my asking for something to be on the discussion part of the agenda, and we all read it, which is great, because I asked staff to put it on, and the answer was there's concerns with it, and then it got forwarded to you, and it's still not on. One will be, some won't be, and that's not good, bad, or otherwise. I understand that, but it does make it really difficult to find progress and then know what happens next. So I just think we need some direction, and hopefully Matt is coming with it, and then we can talk about when he's here as well. But it's been really unclear for me, and it erodes progress if we don't know how to do it, and we just showed that we don't know how to do it. So we'll discuss it again the next time as well, but even something like Paul suggested, where anybody can add something to the discussion portion, and then if two people agree, it can be on the next agenda with an actionable portion that follows appropriately. I don't know what that is, and that's where we need help all figuring it out collectively. But Paul, I think this is the fourth time you brought this for us for the last year.
Yeah.
And we're not making progress just sitting up here going, yeah, we need to do it. We need to do it. So hopefully Matt has something, and Joe, maybe you have thoughts as well, but some kind of way to formalize this process would be great.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yeah, I definitely think we need a process on the books, but I thought at the last meeting we talked a little, I thought Matt indicated he was looking into this, so I was hoping he was going to be here, but if we push it off another meeting, I'm more than fine with that. It's no surprise, I'm a bit of a rules guy. I do think it'll help both council, it'll help staff, if we, even beyond just a policy, I think we're talking about how items get on the agenda, but even if there's some sort of flow chart that talks about, I mean, in my mind, right, where that flow chart with council action turns into policy or something that just, I think, can guide us a little bit better on what that process looks like. And it sounds like, John, you maybe have an idea, but.
Right. You know, I don't know exactly what you all discussed with the city attorney, but one thing that we have done in the past that's been pretty successful is when the new council's seated, they have an opportunity to work on rules. And those rules they span a variety of different issues. So that might be if, I'm not saying we wait until then, I'm saying that, you know, in addition to what Matt may or may not have already come up with, you know, that might be another opportunity for discussion on that. And City Attorney Lawrence is very familiar with that. She's helped councils in the past, you know, the variety of different ideas associated with that. So just another idea, an option.
I do think timing is it's good right now, right? We have a new city manager coming on board. We can kind of talk about what those procedures look like moving forward.
Yeah.
I know from staff's perspective, a lot of times this stuff is like second nature to you guys, right? And when relatively new council sitting up here, except for Paul, but as Paul indicated, things change over time too, but being able to succinctly tell council, this is the process, here's the sheet, follow it,
Sure.
I think is going to do wonders in your guys' world.
And just not to belabor the point, but to provide a little more concrete example of that, there was a time when council decided that they wanted to have citizen statements at the beginning and the end of the meeting, and Paul remembers that. So that's just an example that they discussed after the new council was elected, and then said, hey, how do we want to kind of run our meetings? And that was a thing that they came up with. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Nichols.
Thanks. I'll just say that I completely agree with Paul that we were elected, and if we want to talk about something, we should be allowed to talk about something. This is the only time that we get to sit up here and talk together as a group. So I agree with you there. I guess maybe what I would ask before the next meeting, if the city attorney could provide us with, what are we not allowed to do today? Because I was under the impression that if we're sitting up here, the meeting's noticed, everyone has access to this. People are texting me watching this right now. So I know that people are seeing it. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah,
And
if it's noticed on the agenda
Yeah.
for discussion, you can talk about it. It's discussion
Yeah.
and direction. You can talk about it, you can give direction.
And so I guess maybe if that's the case, my only concern, I know Joe's more of a rules guy than I am, and I know that just because of us, but I don't want to create so many rules that we are losing the ability to have that flexibility we have today. So that would be my caution as we think about how to update the process. Today, I felt empowered to if I need to talk about something, I'm pretty confident it's going to get on here, and then we can talk about it if we need to. So that's where I am. I kind of like the process we have today, but I acknowledge that it's not spelled out. The lawyer in me kind of likes that it's not spelled out, but that's where I am.
We live in the gray.
Exactly.
Councilmember Fulham, he buzzed in. Do you mind if I let him go first?
Go for it.
Okay, good. Because you may have something that.
Well, I was gonna reserve this to city manager statements, but because it's related to this issue, it's probably more appropriate to talk about it. One of the things with me being the interim city manager that I asked staff to do is just educate me on issues that I may not have been aware of that city manager Roloff was involved in. So they've done that. I've met with staff. I have to say, council members have been very patient with me in terms of things that they had emailed and discussed with city manager Roloff in the past. And I also asked Cammie Zerker, our executive assistant, and she probably hates me more than she did before for this, to go through the council meetings, watch them, and document issues that the council members brought up that they wanted to have actions taken on. And she's working through that process. She has some documents that she's already created for me and that we've also shared with the department heads. So I don't want the council members to think that we don't hear you and that we're not responsive, because we want to make sure that we answer your questions. And in addition to that, when I had the most recent department head meeting, we discussed the idea of trying to move forward everything that we possibly could before the new city manager comes on board, because we want to give her the best chance to be successful. If we just defer everything, there's just going to be a mountain of work. And I think as a new employee, which she will be, she needs some time to understand the organization and start to build relationships, which I know she is very much interested in doing. So there are certain things, that I think are going to be maybe inappropriate for me to be responsible for. I don't want to overstep my bounds, certainly. I appreciate the trust that the council has placed in me as an interim. But one of those things, for example, I can tell you is to go forward and accelerate the recruitment for the fire chief in a manner where she wouldn't have an opportunity to participate. I think that would be inappropriate, because this person is going to have a reporting relationship to the new city manager. So I don't want to say that we can push everything through. There's going to be some things that I think that we need to respect the selection of the council for the new city manager, and then act accordingly. But I just wanted to mention that since this subject came up, and I can sense a little bit of frustration from the council, so
Thank you.
Hopefully it helps.
Councilmember Flom.
I would agree that the timing's rather fortuitous for this, with the new city manager coming in, and then also a council election in April. And I think for any new city council members in the future, whether it be in April or down the line, wherever it may be, I think it's important for them to at least have something that is spelled out for them that is kind of encapsulates the process, right? To DJ's point, I do value flexibility. I think it is a very good thing that council should have in its toolbox going forward. However, just having rough guidelines or just having things spelled out in a manner where new council members can see them, I think would have benefited me when I got on council, and I think would have benefited all of us when we got on council. So that's something I would like to see. The mayor's not here, so I'm not really going to dig into this further, but I look forward to continuing this conversation when he is.
Thank you.
Very brief. Go ahead. Sorry, talking too much tonight. Yeah, I very much agree, and I think also having like a previous council's like, yes, this is what future councils should act like, seal of approval, I think also takes a little bit of the pressure off of staff from, I think there's been times where you guys have like, well, this is the process we use, this is what it's supposed to be, but then we've been like, oh, well, where is that in writing, or where? I think having a council say succinctly, these are our rules and procedures, we have approved them, is going to help you guys in the future say, last council did that. Defer to rules that Joe made, and yell at him if you want, so.
Thank you. As Councilmember Nichols said, this is the only time that we get together and just talk about things, and I'm very thankful that we work as hard as we do to not create a walking quorum, because there's a lot of times where I want to, but, oh, that's an idea, I'd love to get their idea on it, but we are limited in what we can do. I think I might have some ideas based on what you guys are talking about, and I have not talked to Mayor Mugarao about this, but it's something where I'm going to share my ideas with him. And I know his commitment to us was he wanted to get us some ideas out to us before we actually sat down and talked about them, so we could be on the same book. But I know some of the hesitancy to be able to have any council member give what could be perceived as direction to staff, and then have them working, if Councilmember Esslinger is like, hey, I want to see this, and that's a 3-hour project, and I say I want to see this, and that's a 3-hour project. And I know why there's some hesitancy, but I also think that you're right, that there needs to be some ability for us to be able to have a discussion like this about any topic that we want to be able to talk about. It could be our crosswalks are too narrow, or whatever we want to be able to talk about. So I want to definitely want to get Mayor Mugrao's input on what he's done. I'm going to share with him some of the ideas that I have based on what you guys have been talking about, where I think we can come up with a really good balance to have a playbook that's like, hey, this is plan A, to be able to get a idea that you have moved forward. There's also this plan B and plan C in case you break glass in case of emergency. But then at least we have something written down if that sounds good to everybody. Okay. All right, without anything further ado, we have the future agenda items, meetings, and workshops. Council member announcements and statements. Anybody have any announcements and statements coming up? All right, I'll turn it over to interim city manager for announcements and statements.
Well, there's several cooperative purchases and also professional services agreements, but if there are any questions about that, I have several updates that I'd like to share with the council and the community. I'm happy to answer any questions about those, though, if you want me to. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is, there's been a significant amount of, news coverage associated with the impending referendum for the school district. And I think, I think it's important for the community to know and also the council to know. I think they do know that there's been some dialogue between the city and the school district. They're professionals, they're consultants, but also I want you to know that Community Director Nyforth and I met with the superintendent this afternoon and their staff and talked to them about their referendum project. Obviously, this is a very important issue for them. And we talked to them a little bit about our processes, coincidentally, since we were just talking about that, and tried to give them information as to how we work with developers, how we work with our other public partners, how often we meet with them, offered those same opportunities to them, talked to them about their ideas that they had to improve the process, and then also educated them on our what we call our site plan review process, where we bring all of our departments together that are related to development, kind of a one-stop shop to try to be a kind of a concierge for developers so we can help them navigate through the maze of our organization. And I think that was very successful. I think that they certainly thanked us, they appreciated us. I think Community Development Director Nyforth did a real nice job of trying to put them at ease and make them understand that we're here to assist them and everyone else that needs to understand the process. So I thought that was a very successful meeting this afternoon. Excellent. The second thing I wanted to just touch on is another newsworthy item that I think has been on the community's mind, and that is the train at Menominee Park. I spoke a little bit to the council members before the meeting, and I know that they've received a lot of questions from a lot of citizens about that, and I think they've done a great job, communicating some of the budget circumstances. We heard a little bit about it from a citizen tonight. And it's not just the train itself, it's the operation of the train, it's having people available to do that work on a regular basis, some of the facilities to house them. I know Parks Director Maurer has done his best to try to get information out to the public about why the decision was made as it was. But in addition to that, I think that there's been some good feedback that we've received associated with this issue. There's been some people that have indicated a willingness to try to help provide additional support for this in the way of financial support. And I know Parks Director Maurer spoke to me this afternoon and gave me an update on that and said that he's continuing to work with a variety of different people who have expressed interest in this issue, as well as the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation. They reached out to us and expressed a desire to assist. So we're going to continue to pursue those opportunities, and we'll see what comes of it. I live not too far away from Menominee Park. I currently have 9 grandchildren. They love to go there and ride the train. So I know my wife has told me that it's her priority that we try to get this figured out too, so. But I just want people to know that it's something that, we hear you and that we're working on trying to see what sort of solutions might be available. Finally, the other thing I wanted to just mention is I had an opportunity to speak to City Manager Roloff recently, and he indicated that he didn't have anything to do tonight, on a Tuesday night. And I invited him to come down. I said, hey, come on down. I'm sure the council member would love to see you and staff. And so unfortunately, he hasn't made it down here yet tonight, but.
I thought you were setting us up for like a grand entrance. I looked over the door, yeah, like a puff of smoke.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens in the future, but he's doing well. He wishes everybody here well. And then in terms of comings and goings, I also had an opportunity to speak to our future city manager, Rebecca Grill, and she's very excited still about coming here. She does watch us. I know the council members know that, and I contacted her to give her more information about the departure of our fire chief. So talked to her a little bit about that. And although she's very, very busy trying to get everything tied up there, and I spoke earlier about what we discussed at our department head meeting about trying to provide the best environment possible for her to be successful when she does come here. I know she's already making plans to meet with staff individually when she does come on board. We're working with Tony and our information technology manager to try to set up some circumstances where she can start actually booking meetings in advance. And I also cautioned her that she's not employed by us yet. So she appreciated that. So I just wanted to let you know that she's very much engaged and very much looking forward to being here. And then in terms of the item that I mentioned earlier in terms of looking at projects and researching projects that might be outstanding, we updated the outstanding issues document that council has. And also, I had a meeting with Public Works Director Robbie and also Finance Director Collins. And one of the items that's on outstanding issues is special assessment, deferral policy, and, a variety of different things associated with special assessments. And, they came to me and said, hey, we have this idea. We're still going to work on this project, but we have this idea about what we might be able to do something that would improve the circumstances before we can get to all the work that's going to be necessary to look at that process. So with that, and I've moved to outstanding issues. I hope you don't mind that, Mayor. I can turn it over to James, and he can talk about his idea.
Sure.
Thank you, John. As Finance Director Colmus and I were working on, the policy request, we started reviewing Chapter 21 of our municipal code, which in particular is public construction and services, methods of payment, special charges, and special assessments. One of the items, Section 21-10, is payment of connection charges. Connection charges are when properties are not in the city when a project is constructed, the special assessments that would have been levied had the property been in the city becomes a connection charge that is then passed on when the property does come into the city. In the second bullet point A of 2110, it talks about if a property comes in within the first 10 years after the assessment is levied, then the property owner may request that to be spread out over the remainder of those 10 years. If anything greater than that, it has to be paid in full. One of the ideas that we had talked about and just wanted to kind of get council's pulse on that before we spent more time and engaged with the city attorney to start talking about an update to the code is, would you have an appetite for us looking at, let's just give everybody the opportunity to select one of the installment plans, whether they were, in the first 10 years or not. As I reviewed our rate case with the Public Service Commission, it is relatively silent on that. It gives us some flexibility. So before we started doing a lot more research, we just wanted to, again, get council's pulses. Is this something you want us to spend more time researching and bring you something that we may be able to get quicker than a policy?
Just go online, or let's do buttons.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's good.
My answer is yes. I think that understanding how flexible we can be, I know we say 10 years, why can't it be 15 or 20 would be my question, because that's a lower rate. I know that's a bigger debt burden on the city for a period of time while we're getting that paid back. But I guess that would be my question, is what's the impact of extending that time frame? But yes, I'd like to explore what existing vehicles do we have today before we add a new layer to the process that's going to be additionally confusing for the taxpayers.
Councilmember Larson?
Yeah, yes, also, thank you for bringing it up. It's back to Paul's agenda item again for a second as well. This is procedurally a great change, and this is awesome, because I'd love to hear this kind of thing from staff before you all work on it and get back to us and we go, that's not what we meant. So working on the last one as well, and for the next meeting, whatever it is, a flow chart, Joe, was the right way to put it. So we all know which directions these things move and how, and this is a great example of that. A resounding yes from me. I just want to make sure that we could also do the rest of it, because I have ideas for what the rest of it should look like as well. But if this is a part that can help to begin with, and then we can look at more of what deferments can and can't do, then for sure, yes.
Yeah, this is not, the end all of that discussion. This was something that we thought might be able to be a step that can be taken while we continue to work on the remainder of what we believe we've been asked to look at.
Great.
Councilmember Plum?
I think it's great to figure out what tools we have in our toolbox before going and buying new tools. So I think I'm a yes on this. Seeing what we can do before we develop new policies is something I think we should always be attempting to look at. So yes from me, and just to Councilman Larson's point, I think we should also be looking at what policies we may be able to develop in the future, but taking stock of what we have, that what we can do tomorrow if need be is very helpful. So yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yeah, I'm a yes too. Thank you for looking at this. Thank you for finding that. I have a bad habit of buying new tools when I already have existing tools, but I think in this case, very appreciated for finding and working with us on this one.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Larson asked my only concern that this is not the fix, but a portion of the solution to, when we have the special assessments. So resounding yes for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The only other thing I just want to touch on this is going back several items about the Menominee Park amusements, and I think you did a really good job. The only thing that was really disheartening for me is when I see things on social media or people that I talk to that are like, why don't they just blank? And anytime there's a question like, why don't they just, we've tried, or we've thought of it, or why don't we just use volunteers? Well, we have to have operators above 18, and there's a lot of different things that go into it. So I definitely don't want a soapbox, but I just want to reassure people that may be watching, like, if the question is, why don't you just, please send those on to us. We'll just, take a look at those, of course. But it's probably, there's a reason why, and we'd be happy to share those reasons. But I wanted to give people some feedback that we don't want that to go away either. And if it wasn't something that was just a little bit more than just, we would be doing it. Sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Brest.
Thank you. Just, I guess, my 2 cents on the train deal, too. I'd love to see it come back. I took my kids there when they were many years ago. So I enjoyed it. I guess in the analysis that Ray's going to be doing, does it make sense spending $50,000 on a piece of machinery that's 70, 80 years old? Would it be wiser to buy something new or gently used that's 5 years, 10 years old, whatever the case may be? So I hope that's part of his analysis too.
Yes. Yeah, it is part of his analysis. And I think depending upon, what sort of revenue might be able to be generated, I think it provide a little more flexibility for us. So I'm hopeful, and I guess we'll just see what happens.
Councilmember.
I guess while we're on the topic, I'm encouraged to hear that staff has been in contact with potential private donors. I know that you Deputy City Manager Fitzpatrick and I, we discussed this earlier about some of the potential solutions we may have to this. I didn't want to see the train go. I know it was an operational impediment, more of a budgetary one. Council's not running around trying to figure out where we can cut quality of life issues or assets out of the city. We don't sit up here and think about that.
Right.
This was a staffing issue. This was a operations issue.
Right.
Given the age of the train as well. So if we can, work with our community peers and partners and stakeholders to make this work, I'm all for it. But this decision was not made lightly by council, and it wasn't because we were just looking to cut things willy-nilly. No, this was an operational concern for us, and if there's a way to bring it back, I'm all for it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from anybody? All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Or do we have to do roll for that, or is that?
You all in favor?
Yeah. Aye.
Aye.
I was like, nobody said anything. I was like,
Nobody wanted to go. Thank you.